We are being recorded. It will be on the local cable television channel. On my far right is Tony Kinahan. On my left is Howard Anderson, Jerry Stetson. I'm Hugh Hurley, the chairman, and Donna Carter over there with all the papers is recording secretary. This is a public hearing. It's for Meadowwoods Estates, which is to be located off of West Chestnut Street in Brockton. We'll start out having the presentation by the proponents, and the board is, I'm sure, will have some questions it would like to get answered. And then, because it is a public hearing, after that, we will open it up, and any of the neighbors have any questions, we'll try to get them answered for you. And we'll take it from there. I ask that you ask the questions through the chair and wait to be recognized. I know sometimes you get excited and you want to ask a question, but please, let's try to do it orderly. With that being said, Mr. Lawton, are you going to start out?
Yeah, if I could. Mr. Chairman, how are you this evening?
Very good, thank you.
I didn't know it was a public meeting tonight, or I would have dressed better. I thought we just put this forward.
Well, under the conditions, and look around, you are very overdressed.
I know, I'm doing the best I can. So in any event, I'd like to introduce the folks that are with me. One of the owners of the property is Ross Messina. He's a member of Meadowwood LLC. And then I have Dan Crowley. Dan and his wife, Petronelli, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. Dan Petronelli and his wife Donna, they own a portion of the property that makes up Meadowwood. And then Frank Gallagher, as you know, who's an engineer, who's done a lot of work before the town. And Ross, you may know, is also the owner and proprietor of I.J. Messina, who does the site work and so forth, who's done work for 4 decades in the town of West Bridgewater. So, if I might, the last time we were here, the issue that came up was the legitimacy and access of the road from Brockton into the parcels in West Bridgewater. Now, I don't know if you want me to go into it in much detail. I sent a memo with exhibits and recorded deeds of easements and deeds, and we sent that to yourself as well as town council. And with that, we got the direction to come back before the planning board. So with that, I'll explain.
And all the members have had a chance to read it, but we do have some questions and concerns, so I'd like you to take us right to it.
Okay, if I could. So this, if you will, is the subdivision, okay? Let me sit here. So this is the subdivision. This is Patricia's Path in Brockton. That's the line that demarks West Bridgewater. And this is the subdivision. There's 31 parcels that go like this. So if you can take a look at that, it's 31 parcels. The abutters are the Crowleys, the Brockton Country Club up here, the Petronellis, and the Petronellis on this border piece right here. So these are the abutters. The town of West Bridgewater. Spady doesn't own this anymore. I think this is George Millett, Brockton Country Club, and the Crowleys. These are the abutters to the subdivision. And the issue that was before the planning board was Patricia's Path. Now, since we were here, we did a deed of easement and a plan, an easement plan that have both been recorded that all the members here have tonight. And what happens was we split the ownership up. So the Brockton parcel is owned by Patricia's Path Realty Trust. And Patricia's Path Realty Trust is the grantor. They granted in perpetuity a right of access and egress to all the land in West Bridgewater. So that addresses that. This plan also shows the easement that goes back to 2013 that Haywood, Boynton, and Williams did for George Millett. And that would show the other access to Ash Street on the lower part of the subdivision. The subdivision, the plan originally, probably one of the things that hung this plan up is that the owners went before the town for the tech review, site plan review, which you're aware of, because they thought they were going to get water and sewer from the town of Brockton. The Brockton's Water Commission approved water in 2013 But that remains to be seen if that's going to happen. It wouldn't be an issue for us because the town of West Bridgewater has already agreed to water down West Chestnut Street, Walnut Street, I'm sorry. But that was the reason why we went to site plan review originally. And as you'll see from the memo, you know, it's a private road that has site plan review in Brockton, if water does come in through Brockton. The subdivision, each one of those lots, the 80% of them are high ground, and if they test properly, they'll each have their own septic system. If they don't, they'll share a community septic system in this highland area right here. And the off-site, that septic system could handle up to 30 homes. It's believed, I think, by Frank, when they took a look at the soil, that about 80% of the lots would have their own septic system. The ground would be favorable for that. This is the deed of easement, and we attached in a memo that we sent to all the members a couple weeks ago, the recorded plan and the recorded deed of easement, which is very specific, as you're familiar with, Mr. Hurley, on giving rights of access to owners in that subdivision. Let's see. Frank, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I guess the only one thing I would add was on the subdivision that we've submitted to you, it's essentially a waiver-free subdivision. We're not asking for any waivers from any of you.
I think right now, we want to determine if you can get in there.
Yep.
And if we get that straightened out, then we'll start looking at it. In fact, we had some money deposited for a peer review. We never did it because
Right.
I didn't want to waste the money until we knew where we were going. If you can convince us, then we'll go to that stage. If we can't convince us, we'll maybe give you back some money.
Well, then let's go back to the issue. I did submit to you members of the planning board a memorandum with the law with regards to roads and so forth. Do you have any issues or questions with regards to that?
Okay, well, let me, the position of West Bridgewater, it kind of got muddied up because it was a public road, it was a private road, and
Yeah.
stuff. All we are looking for is a road that has been approved under the subdivision control law, as required in the subdivision control law, which, and when you go to section 81M, the subdivision law has been enacted for the purpose of protecting the safety, convenience, and welfare of the inhabitants of the city and town, in which it or may hereafter be, in effect, regulating the laying out and construction of ways in the subdivision providing access. Now, I know you have said that the first part is not a subdivision, and you're kind of been dancing around it and trying to
Mr.
show it.
Chairman, wait, let's back up. I'm not dancing. If I was dancing, you wouldn't like the picture. It wouldn't be very pretty. But what I will say is that there is no subdivision. There had been plans submitted to the city of Brockton, but if the site plan review approved that plan, they couldn't have approved it if it was a subdivision.
Oh, okay. And
Am I right?
no, when you go into the site plan approval, the project thresholds, which is right at the top of the page,
Yeah.
it's for commercial and industrial. It's for residential developments, which are 6 units, apartments. It's for to residential use. And then it's any development located on unconstructed or unimproved way, and then in parentheses, not covered by subdivision control, or any development that requires utility extension. Well, this eventually is going to require, is going to be covered under the subdivision control. And when it said an unconstructed or unimproved way, I would take that to be some of the old paper streets back in the 20s and 30s of the last century. There was a lot of dividing going up subdivision of properties, and a lot of those never got built, or if they did get built, they might not necessarily have had all the utilities, so you could come back in and replace it with that.
How does that bring it into the sphere of a subdivision? Subdivision, now here's
Well,
81L, if I might, just
Okay.
if I might. It's 81L says a private roadway on private property can be created without subdivision approval, as long as there is no intent to utilize frontage to create lots. And there isn't. We could consider it to be a private road. The owners didn't even need municipal approval to put that road in. The only reason why they did is because the city of Brockton approved water in 2013, the Water Commission. So they put a road in with utilities, which you've read from the planning board, and they all said it wasn't a subdivision, it was a road. So the road with utilities was signed off on. But we don't need...
What was approved was approval for the proposed utility construction project at the above address. That's what was...
roadway. Yeah, but it was a
No,
private
no, no.
roadway.
Sir,
Yeah, but...
I am reading it directly from it. It says, they voted unanimously to grant site plan approval for the proposed utility construction project at the above address. And then they went on to say, please note that this project has been granted site plan approval. The applicant is still
No,
responsible.
please read, because you're skipping over the pertinent parts, and I'd like you to read.
Okay, construction project at the above. Please note, however, that although this project has been granted site plan approval, and then underline, the applicant is still responsible to obtain all the necessary licenses, permits, and proposals required for the nature of this project, which...
Right, utilities. But there are no utilities. The site plan review, we didn't, if you back up and you read the statute, a roadway, a private roadway can be built without a subdivision, and it can be built on private property. And 81L says specifically, you can build a private roadway on private property without subdivision approval. That's 81L. How can you not look at 81L?
Okay.
And you look at M, L, how can you do that?
We can, because the intent is for a road to be built to subdivision, under the subdivision control. Went back on the minutes from, and this came up several times with Mr. Albany, back in November, November the 4th of 2020, we asked him to, that the only, he suggested that Mr. Albany find some examples of this type of subdivision, and the board will take a look at it. The reason you have never been able to show us one of these, because nobody has ever done one of these.
But it's not a subdivision.
Nobody has ever done a road. You have several ways of making a road. The state can lay out a road, a municipality can lay out a road, or you can go through the subdivision control process. A lot. Now you have come up with something. We asked you, and we've asked Mr. Albany several times, but that was a particular time when it was said in an open meeting, and he has never come up with one, and I believe that it's never been done. If you can show us one, I'll be glad to see it.
I sent a
Sir,
memo with it.
Sir, you're not listening because you're talking.
I am listening.
No, you can't, when I'm talking, you're talking, you're not listening. Okay.
Okay, am I ready? Can I
Now,
go?
okay, now you can.
We sent a memo to town council, and town council, I'm led to believe, agreed with the position of the landowners.
Sir, one of our members is missing. There's 5 people on this board. We decide what it is. Town council is an advisor, and he's a very knowledgeable man, and we appreciate his advice. But you and Mr. Albany's tried to go directly to town council. This, I don't know what you're thinking. This is the board who decides. You've got to convince us. And,
Well, first, if I can go back to baby steps, where do we get off with the idea that there's a subdivision in Brockton? Where do we start with that? It's a private road on private property.
The
It provides
subdivision,
access to
Okay.
West Bridgewater.
okay, if you look at them, I'm sure you're familiar with Brockton's planning board rules and regulations.
Yeah.
Okay, by definition, a street, a public or private way shown on a plan approved in accordance with the subdivision control law. That's what a private way is. That's Brockton's.
That's
You
a
ha-
street that provides frontage for buildable lots. This is not. This is just a private road that has one lot. It does not have, under 81L, and under the subdivision control law, it only applies to subdivisions or parcels that have one or more lots, or two or more lots, not one lot.
I know what you're saying about the two lots, but also, when you read the introduction to the subdivision control law, it was to guarantee that it was adequate roads to the subdivisions as well as within the subdivision, because it was, in instances, there was a problem back in the middle of the last century.
Frank, are you familiar with roads that don't create subdivisions? Private roads that don't create frontage for buildable lots?
yes.
Okay. And if you have a private road that doesn't provide access to buildable lots, to two or more lots, does that road come under the subdivision control law from an engineer or surveyor's perspective?
Not if you're not trying to create lots to build on.
Right.
It can exist as it is, essentially.
Now,
If you wanted to have a road to go in to the, to the property, if you wanted to go, you could, but just calling it a road, but in the city of Brockton, it has to be done under the subdivision control law.
But only if it has two or more lots, Mr. Chairman.
No, what do you call Patricia Path? Is it
It's a private way. It's a
Okay.
private way.
Let me read again from a street, a public or private way, shown on a plan approved in accordance with the subdivision control law. Until it is done, and there's private ways and private roads that one of the things that you sent me, where towns actually, before the subdivision control law, apparently, the towns would actually do private roads where somebody would be allowed to do it. But the subdivision control law came in 70 years ago,
Yep.
and we asked you, an example, if Frank, who is very familiar with the subdivision process, can find one, I'd love to see it. I have been very familiar with a lot of the engineers and surveyors in the area, and not a one of them, they laughed when they heard what you were doing. They thought it was ludicrous to.
I don't know why, because the statute's specific, 81L says roadways on private property are not subject to municipal approval unless they propose to create lots used for or available for buildings. And the road that we built and that was approved by site plan review had one lot. It wasn't, and it specifically said these are not buildable lots. In the Crocone's case, the ones that I sent to town council and that I sent to you, those affirmatively made comments that there were 3 lots, but 2 of them weren't buildable. So Crocone said that they weren't even, that was subject to an approval not required. And that they
Okay.
had to approve it, and it was not a subdivision, Crocone says.
Okay, I'm glad you brought up the approval not required, because there was a hearing held and on it, and it was only 3 members there, Mr. Hassan, Ms. Conrad, and the chair, Bob Pelagi. One of them said, it looks like they are attempting to avoid subdivision control. This plan is creating Patricia's path. The next one said, said that this plan clearly shows a road and that it's not an A&R. And then Mr. Pelagi went in and said, this is, I knew as a kid, a plan and profile for an A&R. He said he sees 3 parcels of land. The center parcel has no bearing distance. There's only one lot, but it is delineated as 3 parcels. The top parcel is labeled as not a buildable lot. He said he can't tell if this means a parcel or the entire site is not a buildable lot. He said that the plan view and profile view are attempting to establish a roadway, and that is his concern. He said that the objective is outside the boundary of the Form A plan. So
Well, it wasn't a Form A plan, that wasn't intended, and that was.
That was the Form A
But if you
plan.
read the minutes, and you have the
I have
minutes
the
from
minutes.
the site plan review.
No, this is a Form A plan,
That was the A&R, those are the minutes from the A&R
Yeah.
meeting.
which is
Now,
Form
if you
A.
read the minutes from the site plan review,
Which I
it's
have.
the exact same plan, and the chairman and others said that this is not a subdivision, they said it's a roadway. You members have read those minutes? And you've seen,
Yeah,
it's the
yeah.
exact same plan. The owner wasn't there, he was in the hospital with COVID when that happened.
But the same thing is, it was, they said, well, when all is said and done, the motion was made. What the motion said, and I read it with quotes, that's what they approved.
So is it-
That is what they said. And they said it as the approving the utilities.
So is it the position, and I probably can cut to the chase if this is answered, the way I think it will. So is it the position of the chair that the roadway is inappropriate because it doesn't have subdivision approval? Is that what the position of the chair would be?
Well, let me back up just a little bit. And we suggested to Mr. Albanese that in fact, we told him back in 2010 when he first came in here, that he had to go through subdivision code. He had to get a road in because at that time they were just looking at Ash Street, which you all know is most driveways are wider than Ash Street. Extension, excuse me, I don't want to. But, so we told him to go in, which he did go in. He did go for subdivision control, and he got it passed. And in their decision, they said you could only go 700 feet. West Bridgewater is 1,000 feet away from West Chestnut Street, so it was a when you get to the end of the road, it's a big step before you can step over into the line to the tune. Well, Mr. Albanese didn't care for that, so on October the 26th, he sent an email to Mr. May, who is the city planner.
And withdrew the plan.
After review of the planning board's conditions regarding this proposed subdivision, it's my intention to withdraw my application for subdivision approval at this time. Please have your records reflect that my application is withdrawn, and please confirm that for me. So at one time, he did do that. If he had turned around and clarified that, and when you read the minutes of that meeting, he didn't ask for a waiver. He didn't ask for anything on it. He just went in and.
But I don't want to get into Mr. Albanese's activities and prior filings with him, if I could.
Well,
But I'd like to-
involves us.
No, it is, but that was a prior plan. That wasn't the plan that was approved by site plan review, and you know that.
No.
It wasn't.
I don't know nothing. I'm a lay person who volunteers for a board, who was told in an email from you was not qualified to interpret the subdivision control law in your email.
Jerry, let's keep going. But what you're saying,
So-
if Mr. Albanese is the one that did all these, so
Yeah.
the fact he isn't here, but I still have to talk about him, bring up his name, because he was the one that was coming. I'll say, qualify by saying somebody who's not here tonight, rather than saying his name, if that makes you feel better.
No, that's fine, but I think it would almost take a declaratory judgment from a court of competent jurisdiction to declare the private way that doesn't create 2 or more lots and be built on private property and provide access. Would that suffice?
Oh, okay, you know what you're doing? We have all kinds of issues here, and you are trying to narrow it down to one issue. I will concede that the subdivision control law says that a subdivision is a division of a land into two buildable lots.
Two or more.
Two or more, yes, sir. But,
According to Miriam,
what does Webster say?
Perfectly, did you get it? Read it, please.
Hey, we gotta,
I'm not trying to.
you know, okay.
No, you already did it. Pissed me off when you did it, so.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that
Okay.
you told me. I'll stand over here next to this guy.
I haven't killed anybody in a week, so I learned a lot in Brockton.
careful.
See?
One thing to bring up, I think the whole issue, we're resting on the thing of subdivision into 2 or 3 lots. My opinion is we're concerned that the road is built right. The only avenue for the construction of the road to be built right is according to the subdivision control law, because our subdivision rules and regulations, and I do believe the city of Brockton, a road is going to be built to certain standards.
Okay.
We need to be able to, and if I had family living on that
Yeah.
street,
Yeah,
I don't
you
care
would.
what you give us for a deed, all of a sudden, in the middle of March, the road collapses because it was insufficiently built,
Yeah.
and I know it's not gonna be insufficiently built. You're resting your case on the subdivision of the
Well, that was-
land, but we're concerned that the road is gonna be built to Mass DOT standards.
Yeah.
And that's basically what our subdivision control law
I see.
states, that the road, and Frank knows,
Yeah.
that the road has to be built to standards. It has to have topsoil stripped out, certain base, certain layers.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
I
have
and
pictures of
that's
it.
what we need more than anything else. I don't care if you subdivide it into 300 lots.
Okay, I gotcha.
We need the justification that when the subdivision in West Bridgewater is built,
Yeah.
that our people are gonna safely be able to transport their
Okay,
families
I got you.
over that piece of property. You've created a deed that states that in perpetuity, it's going to belong to somebody. It's either gonna belong to the homeowners association, which most likely is all the subdivision is gonna be, because we can't control the connection between Brockton through the woods.
Yeah.
The main thing is we want a road built to subdivision control or DOT specifications, according to what Frank has designed, many plans, many roads to be built.
Right. Can you
The
address that?
division of land and how many lots, and I don't care, you're gonna subdivide that, you're gonna break lots off of this Patricia's path at some time. There's no way of denying it. Land is worth money.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have a piece of property that's got the potential of being built on, gonna sit there, not at the way land is gold right now.
Yeah.
The whole function in this thing since September of 2010, when the original plan was brought in, when Mr. Albanese was the attorney, excuse me, for the Petronelli family, we told him the same thing then. And I'm sorry, I'll use your terminology, he's been dancing an awful foxtrot ever since.
Can I say something? I was here.
Yeah.
Benny was representing us,
Yeah.
the Petronelli family. And we met with Jock Borges in Brockton, in
Yeah.
the city planning. And I believe Frank will attest to this, that everything is specifically, in Ross, it's built to the city standard. So I 100% agree, we're not gonna cut.
And I think that's the key issue
Oh,
we're dealing
okay,
here.
we're getting on, yeah.
And it wasn't a
No,
and it wasn't a 700-foot
no,
road. It was a
no.
road that went all the way to West Bridgewater, just.
We're getting off track here, now just,
We're talking about
No.
the
No,
road.
we're
The
talking
road.
about the road.
no, we're getting off track here. Is the reason
It's 12
Frank
years.
Frank has designed a road to Brockton standards.
Okay.
I have no problem. What we want is it under the umbrella of the subdivision control law, so that it is, you can call, I can call this a tree. I can call it a tree. It isn't a tree though, but I can call it a tree. And you want to call something a road, but by the regulations, it isn't a road. It's a piece of land that something has been built on. But to be a road, it has to go through a process, and that's all we're asking, that you go through the legal process so that it's no question about what it is. There's no question about, and I know an easement is as good as fee. I have no problem with that. We don't care about that, but all we want is the road to be created. We have a process. We have laws. The Mass General laws go fill up a whole library with all the laws that we have. We have a specific law. When you want to build new roads, you do it. We have the subdivision control law. We have the City of Brockton's regulations that call for something, and we want you to do that.
If the road is built, it's built to spec.
Sir,
No, I'm just trying
no,
to get
you'll get a chance later.
Okay.
Is if you we'll do that, and you started, but I don't know why. Well, actually, I do know why, because if you look through the minutes, that somebody, and I won't mention his name, has problems in Brockton. I don't know why he does, but it's on record that this unnamed person has troubles with stuff in Brockton. All we're asking is to do it. You read the Brockton regulations, and he can do what he wants to do here. I don't know what happened there, but it throws up a red flag because he couldn't do it. What is missing? It's something. It's the unknown. Why doesn't he do it? All we're saying is do it by the regulation. And again, we've offered it a couple of times. If you, Mr. Lawton, as an attorney, who I know you're very well versed in land law, and Mr. Gallagher, who I know is an engineer and is very well versed in, if you can come up and show us where they created a, we will be very attentive to it. And until that time, you're going to have to do it under the subdivision control law.
I think what I'll do is bring a motion for declaratory judgment in the Superior Court and ask them to rule on that issue of whether or not we can create a private road in a private property that doesn't create frontage for additional lots to provide access to an abutting, to a development in an abutting town. And that should do it. I think then if you have
I know you have done a lot of research, as I have done a lot of research, and in fact, it's a shame. It used to be somebody with the Department of, I think it was Community Affairs, Donald Smith, who wrote the Land Use Manager, which was a great thing, and it's out there, and it goes in it. I checked there, and they go on. If you can show it, I've never seen it. We have three ways. We had 2 ways, and then they came out with the subdivision control law in the early 50s. We have 3 ways of making a road. And in fact, while we're on it, one of the things that you submitted was was an attorney wrote it. I don't have the cover page here, the roads.
Oh, yeah,
for-
that comes out of the surveyor's manual?
The surveyor's manual, yes,
Surveyor's
yeah. And all through it, and it's online, I've read it, in fact,
Yeah.
I had read it before you, on another case, before you even came in with this. And one of the things it said on private ways, and it's private ways, if they intended to constitute frontage for zoning purposes, must be laid out and constructed in accordance with the provisions of the subdivision control laws, any mass general laws, blah, blah, blah. Then it says, otherwise, a landowner may create such a private way crossing his property as he wishes. Now, throughout this, every single paragraph in here, he has qualified what he says. And he qualified private ways. Then he puts this additional sentence in. And that additional sentence is not in the subdivision control law. It's not in section 81K through 81GG, as he qualifies as a thing he was before. I don't know where he came up with it.
It's reflected in 81L, the language in 81L, at the top of that page 3 of mine. 81L says that a private roadway and private property can be created without subdivision approval, and it's right in the statute, 81L. You've seen
Did you-
81L? Yeah, it says, as long as there is no intent to utilize frontage to create lots, as defined by 81L. And that's why I cited the Cracone's case, because the Cracone's case is the leading case on these sorts of approvals. When 2 or more lots are not sought, and the intent of the zoning bylaws, you don't intend to create 2 or more lots. The Cracone's case says that you don't need subdivision approval. And that's in 81L as well.
So here's 81.
81L. Mike Dukakis was the governor when this was written. I think there are some revisions. I'd like to, this isn't the statute, you know, if you load down Mass General laws, do you have that? Yeah, that's all.
Because it isn't in there, is it?
Well, this doesn't really, this isn't the statute. This is just from the governor's municipal planning and subdivision legislation, but that's not the statute. That's the statute.
Good.
Subdivision shall mean the division of a tract of land into 2 or more lots. That's G. That's before we get to L. That should address that, right?
Yeah,
See this?
which,
So
okay,
we'll-
here's section 080.
Yeah, but do you see this in G?
Yeah, I know, and I know it says that, it says it everywhere.
Well,
Okay.
But the thing is,
subdivision-
we want to see the,
Okay, subdivision does not include division of land into 2 or more lots where frontage complies with frontage under zoning or if none, at least 20 feet, and if such frontage is located on a public way, blah, blah, blah.
Read it so that people can.
Lot.
Okay.
It says lot shall meet.
watch out for the wire,
Oh,
you're
yeah,
getting,
sorry.
you're
That's all I
getting
need to
tangled
do
up
is
here.
trap. Lot shall mean an area of land of one ownership with definitive boundaries used or available for use as the site of one or more buildings. And that's what
Yeah.
Trish's path was, on one lot, not more than one lot. Yeah, this is do you have that statute? This is a planning board's
handle
thing that you
that.
handle. This isn't the statute. Did you have L?
I don't have L.
Wish I had my file and had L. But this, I took out of L, and I put it in my memo. I wish I had the statute. Would you guys have it?
No.
You hide an L?
The town clerk's office is closed, I know that.
But if 81L,
Okay, and it's in your, you say it's
yeah,
in
it's in
your,
my memo, because I took
Which-
it out
which
of
one?
81L, and I only took my cover letter to you. This is my memo that I submitted to you, the exhibit summary of law pertaining to Patricia's Path. But if 81L, if I take that and highlight it and send it to all the members, and if 81L says that a private roadway can be built on private property, can be created without subdivision approval, would that portion of the statute satisfy the board to that issue?
well,
As to that issue only?
okay, but for that issue, we don't want to have this thing come up
No,
and be a problem later on. But the city of Brockton, out of their rules and regulations, as I read before, for private ways shown in accordance with the subdivision control law.
Yeah, but I'm more concerned with the statute.
Well,
not
yeah, but
Brockton's.
you're building something in Brockton.
No, I understand, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, I don't want to get beat up by this guy.
No, but if you're doing something, what we want is something that has been
Okay,
legally created, and that's all we're asking.
I'll take the statute and I'll take it in its original form and I'll email it to the chairman.
Okay,
All right, and then if we can move on.
okay.
Do you want to,
Well, all right.
or do you want to hurry and go address that issue?
Well,
Come back. I think that's the big hang.
it's all right. As I said earlier on, it got kind of muddy when we were talking public way and private way. And all we want is a way that has been created. I would hope that you would have make these public ways, because school buses cannot can go on private ways. And we're talking, some of these lots, 3,000, 3,500 feet. So somebody that lives in some of the more southerly of these new lots, those kids are going to have to walk over half a mile out to West
Yeah, but like
Chester.
in Brockton, a lot of those streets are private. They never became public.
I know, but no, but I'm just saying, because the school bus that handles for West Bridgewater, the senior lines, they cannot, or go on private ways to pick up kids. So we need these subdivisions until we accept them. And in West Bridgewater, we try to accept all the streets. One of them, we want them for the credits from the Mass Highway, the getting reimbursed. And also, we want our residents to have, not to be on a second-class street. We want them to be on a public road where the public will take care of it. They'll fix the potholes, they'll plow. We want our people to be on there. So if you do something like this, we're not going to be able to have they're not going to be able to get to it, but this is just going to be one of the many points why we'd like to see it ultimately be a public road. And if you do everything legally, it can be. If you create it through the process, it can be. But we really haven't looked at the subdivision itself, because we've been hung up on this. And really, that's what it is. I know Brockton has some issues, but I don't have any authority in Brockton, and I always try to, in this board, we try to only take care of what is our thing, but to go on. So would you like to do that? Well,
I would, because I think it's a moot point to go beyond that, right? Without addressing that.
It could affect how we look at it. And even more so is if you can, and I'm looking at you, Frank and I go way back, so I'm not picking on Frank. But we've seen it, and I've never seen one, and that has been created. And everybody that I talk to, they've never seen one, a road created in any other way. That's why I'm very interested. And if you can show it to us, and if you can show us.
Well, I'm going to send the 81L, and then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to the owners and perhaps go before the Superior Court on a motion for declaratory judgment to address that issue, the definition of 81L in roads, and then that should satisfy the planning board. Should satisfy the city going forward.
Because we are law-abiding. If it's honest as we have to do it, we do it. You know, I'm not trying to do anything outside of it, and I'm trying to read the law. I read the words as they were. And so yes, I think. Okay, so why don't we? This is a public hearing. And Mr. Petronelli has been very patient over this.
Well, you know, I've been here for 12 years, and now we're talking, everybody seems to have a little different viewpoint of this. We're talking about school buses and the quality of the road and what 81L is. I mean, I think the whole point is that it's if the road is built to city specs and we resolve the school bus issues, there's no intention at this point or in the future to build houses in Brockton. It's a narrow road. It's a West Bridgewater project. And I don't know how many people are here from West Bridgewater. Be curious. We have a lot of Brockton in here. This is a West Bridgewater project, and I don't know how much tax revenue would come to West Bridgewater. It'd be a beautiful subdivision. My parents bought this property 62 years ago. We paid taxes to the city, to West Bridgewater for over 60 years. And the intent was to leave it to the kids. And now here we are, trying to get 30 houses in here, and I'm hearing there's more, everybody's trying not to approve it, not to find ways to approve it. And Brockton doesn't want this subdivision. The people in here don't want it. They're not from West Bridgewater. And I think that's something that we should take into consideration, that it would be a safe road. It would be, and I think Benny's done a traffic study on it. If not, we could do another one if that's an issue. So I guess that's really, it's disappointing that all these years that we're down to, is it a lot, is it not a lot, can you have a private way? When I met with Jock Borges, that road didn't go 700 feet, it went all the way to West Bridgewater, but it was mandated that it have to have the curbs and all the utilities. This is an unusual situation. How do you get to your land?
Okay,
So-
and I understand it, and the reason we have this board is so that people can divide their property, build houses. Everybody here, your house at one time was wilderness, and now it is. So you have the rights.
We do, and then the other thing is, I don't even want, we purposely never wanted to go to the state to try to get a 40B. And you're kind of pushing us in a corner. And that was not our intention to quadruple the density of it. We're willing to maintain it as a narrow project.
That's what you'll get.
But anyway, that's our.
Okay.
It's on the record, right?
Yeah, it's on the record.
That's cool.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
What's cool?
Ross isn't, he's not going to pass. He's good.
What do you
Ross,
think?
do you have any
Come here.
Well,
comment on the?
what we've done on the road in Brockton so far has been inspected by the highway department.
And we know Ross, we know his
he's
work.
been doing
He's a good contractor and he builds a good road,
Yeah.
so it,
Thank
we're not, that is not the issue. All we want is it done legal. Let me at this time, we got some emails, and I want to read them into the record so that they're there. I'm not going to read the whole thing because they pretty much say the whole thing. They have concerns, they have traffic concerns, and everything, but I'm just going to just go to count 1, 2, 3, 4. there's 9 of them here, so, and, which we understand, your concerns, but, people need a place to live, and as long as it's done in an orderly way, it's the way things are done. So we're not here to address you. We're not here to stop, and all we want to do is see it done per the regulations. There's a reason the regulations, the standards are out there. It took a long time in developing, and they have been amended and changed as the need. Let me, because this is a public hearing, and a public hearing, the public has a chance to speak. I ask that you wait to be acknowledged. I ask that you keep it relevant to what is going on, and we don't want to hear anything about personalities or anything else. We're just looking for the fact, but we do want to hear what you have to say. And this very patient lady.
Hi, and thank you, board.
And we do.
I'm Mrs. Petronelli.
Thank you.
I'm his wife. This has been held up for 12 years, and I understand your concerns. You want it safe, and you want it lawful,
Yes.
and you want it a good place to live for people in West Bridgewater. Me too, I live here. So, but we have a discussion here that it most likely is lawful. And we have an engineer here who is designing a road to be safe and a fine road. And we have a subdivision that will enhance this town and will also enhance the neighborhood over here with luxury homes. We've waited 12 years, we've done traffic studies, we've been very patient. My father-in-law built some of your homes, I'm sure, and this was his dream to continue to build. And we're going to build beautiful homes, not just average homes, very nice homes that will enhance that community. And we've waited 12 years, we have been harmed, we have lost a lot of money. These men have lost a lot of their time. They have lost years of their lives. They have lost their investment. We have been harmed, all of us. And we want the same things that you want. So if this is lawful, and this is safe, and you represent not them, but us in this community, and we are part of this community, you represent us in West Bridgewater. If it's lawful, if it's safe, and if it's good for West Bridgewater, that's the most important thing here. All this other noise is just noise. It's not the purpose of this committee.
Okay, I understand, yes. Anybody else have anything to say? Say anything? Okay. Yes, sir.
Mark D'Agostino, I'm the Ward 3 City Councilor in Brockton. So I sat and listened tonight to everything that was said. You know, as far as Patricia's path, you know, it sure sounds like a lot of tap dancing to me. I'm not a lawyer, but it sounded like a lot of tap dancing to me. Ash Street, I can't get my pickup truck down Ash Street. So we talk about safety. How are you going to provide police, emergency medical services, fire services, and as you mentioned, school buses, the services that the folks in these houses are going to expect and need? You know, you've got to come all the way around through Brockton in order to do that. Just something that I thought of. The other thing is, I know it's a West Bridgewater project, but it absolutely affects these people. And you can see that right there on the map. It's not like this is exclusively in West Bridgewater and has nothing to do with Brockton, right? I mean, we know that it's going to have an impact. As far as safety goes, and these are the concerns, not only these folks that are here tonight, but I had calls from other constituents as well, that wanted to make sure I was coming tonight and wanted to make sure that the safety concerns were heard. We had a pedestrian fatality, just right where this is, just a few weeks back. You know, so it's not just about these roads, it's also the infrastructure around it, and that is the only way for them to get out and out of this complex. So and I don't know how much that the safety concern that I just raised plays into this. I never served on a planning board. That's for you all to consider. But I know that I've heard from a lot of folks, and they have a lot of concerns about the safety of this area, adding the additional traffic, adding the additional homes. And then, again, I've already shared my thoughts on the roadways themselves. That's all I had to say. I really appreciate, I know that I and a lot of these folks are not from West Bridgewater, so I really appreciate you giving us some of your time tonight very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Yes.
My name is Susan DeCastro. I represent Ward 4 in the city of Brockton. The property you're talking about, the access lot, which connects this proposed subdivision to West Chestnut Street in Brockton, is located in Ward 3, and that's why Mr. Giacosino spoke first. I have thousands of residents who use West Chestnut Street to get from their homes Monday through Friday to Route 24, and then turn around and come back on it in the afternoon. It's not, I've used it in the years that I worked in Boston. I am a real estate lawyer by profession. There are days when the intersection of Southworth Street and West Chestnut Street is back 15 cars, not to mention the backup on West Chestnut Street coming up from the inner city. We already have so much traffic on that street, and the idea of there being more cars coming out just beyond a major intersection with Ash Street, it's going to be a nightmare. It will be a nightmare. And you have to consider that, even though it's in another community, because it will impact future residents of the town of West Bridgewater. Now, someone sitting here who will remain nameless has already thrown out to my residents that, well, they can always put a 40B there. Well, go ahead and try. Go ahead and try. It's your right, it's your prerogative.
That's right.
For many years, they were going for water and sewer from Brockton. That's not going to happen now. I don't want to make enemies, and I don't want to make hardship for anyone. But when you buy land, a little bit here, a little bit there, over a long time, it's a risky investment. And we all know about risky investments, power plants and stuff. I just want to say that I hope I'm glad you allow us to speak, and I hope you will take into account the unique nature of what's the proposal that's in front of you. Brockton very much has to have something to say, and we do and we will. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Peter Lynch from Brockton. This will not be a safe street. There's no way it can be. I live up the street past the under 55 development. I'm actually right around here. There is no, like, your point on a school bus can't go in. I don't think a school bus could turn into this road. This section from here to here is the narrowest section of West Chestnut Street. When a trash truck comes down here, all the traffic has to back up. It can't even go around the truck because it's going against oncoming traffic. This section, right here, is the absolute worst part of West Chestnut. When you get past here, past Ash, it opens up. This right here is where a woman was killed by a car that was coming up. Why? Because they had sun in their face, and it's a narrow part of the road, and she got hit and was thrown, and it was killed instantly, and the driver went in and didn't even see her. This is the absolute, so this is a safety issue. I've seen Mr. Messina's trucks pull in and out. Can't do it without blocking traffic. Again, I'm just saying there's no way you can build a safe road there, especially something that's going to access 31 lots. And I can't even imagine, to your point, a school bus coming up in the morning and having kids standing right here to get on a school bus on this street in the morning, which between the hours of 6 and 8 is packed with people coming from the Bridgewaters, downtown Brockton, east side, to get to 24. I've lived in that neighborhood since 2000, and the change in the traffic flow is unbelievable. Thank you.
Okay. Let me see if there's anybody else. Yes, sir.
I'm Steve Kelly, I live in Brockton as well. And I really am concerned about the safety impact it's going to have. As he said, having kids stand out, half a mile from their house. And, what happens if they get in an accident? If they get hurt? Who's going to take care of them? West Bridgewater Police? No, it's Brockton Police. And, and it's not fair to us or for them. Is there another way of making an access through West Bridgewater? Can they do it that way? It's not fair to us, the citizens of Brockton, to add, how many cars are you expecting? You're having 30 houses? How many cars is that? 2-3 houses a house? That's 90 houses, and cars coming out on this West Chestnut Street? Have you driven down there?
Oh, yes.
Then you know what it is.
I am.
It's not fair to the people of West Bridgewater to be in a predicament like that.
Thank you. Anybody else before?
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
My name's Diana Toscarino, so I also live on West Chestnut Street. I actually live next door to Ash Street Extension, which, you're right, my driveway is actually wider than that street, but I live next door to where the woman just got killed. My kids have waited out near that road for buses. We have them stand about, 15 feet in on the driveway because of the way that people drive on my property to cut around people because no one's gonna wait. I understand their predicament, and I agree, there has to be maybe another way, maybe to access through West Bridgewater somewhere, because I think it's a recipe for disaster to actually ask. I've waited in my own driveway to pull out of my own driveway 10-15 minutes because everyone's in a rush, no one's waiting, people are driving around, people are taking illegal lefts. People drive through my driveway because they don't even want to wait in line for the people who are coming out of Ash Street Extension, and there's only 6 houses. So, to his point, you're talking 2 to 3 cars a house, 90 more vehicles waiting in line to come out onto an already, probably one of the busiest roads in Brockton. And so, I don't discourage them to do what they want on their property. I do discourage them to access it through West Chestnut Street.
Okay, thank you. Let me get, I'll come back to you, but let everybody have a chance. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Patricia Jacobson, and I live in the over 55 development. As a matter of fact, I'm here representing the 27 homes there. I'm a trustee of the Homeowners Association. And not to pile on, and you've heard all the, we have to pull out of there every day. And the traffic is absolutely incredibly dangerous for all of us. So I would just add that to what other folks have said.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay, now.
Obviously, there's a problem on this road. I travel that road too. Many of us in West Bridgewater travel that road. You have a problem on this road. You already have a problem on this road. You had somebody you say got hurt on that road. You have elected representatives here and a lawyer. Why don't you go see if you could do something with that road?
Yeah,
But-
I have this.
But denying
Real simple.
people their,
Not make it
people
worse.
their property, you already have a problem. We didn't create it.
We're getting off subject. We've heard it, we all, I think everybody has been quite plain. Yes, ma'am.
Linda Lynch,
Yeah.
Brockton. We were here at the last meeting that this was all defined as Meadowwoods 2, which, as I understand it, was an alternate plan to access this same property from Linwood.
Okay.
Walnut.
Yeah,
So-
let me, I'll address it, because they sound the same, the same name. Meadowwood 2 actually involves coming in off of Walnut Street, right at the West Bridgewater line. Through Mr. Crowley's land, through George Millett's land, and also somebody who isn't
I
here's land.
understand that.
It was a way to come in. One of the reasons they were looking at it was because they were going to be getting West Bridgewater water. West Bridgewater has adequate water on Walnut Street. We've got the new standpipe there, and we have plenty of water, and they can come in through there. So that was something, they came in with a preliminary plan, and we haven't heard back from them. Mr. Gallagher was the engineer, I'm not sure what it is. But really, it's two different things, although it has the same name except for a Roman numeral after it.
But this land was, you discussed this piece of land at that meeting, and that they could not go over the river in order to access this development. That was discussed in that meeting.
That is an alternate, but that plan, they've got some wetland issues and some other things in there.
Okay.
It was only a preliminary plan, but
I have something else to say, but that's only the...
Just let me ask Mr. Gallagher, because he's the man who did it. Can that scheme that you have, can you access this area from Walnut Street?
Not, I mean, based on the discussions we had with you, this board, and with input from the town's conservation commission, we can't really access. I mean, so there was a question someone asked about, why don't you find a different way in? Well, the plan that you're referring to was an attempt to find a different way in. It wasn't feasible.
So I guess my point is, we're not the only ones, you know, the obstacle is not us. The obstacle is, they've changed this over the years. This was a 3-lot subdivision that nobody in Brockton had a problem with. You know, they were gonna build 3 houses with a 780-foot street that the city said had to end in a cul-de-sac. Everybody was amenable to that. That was no problem. Then they changed it, they retracted that, they defined the lots as non-buildable, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'll just state this in, you know, regular terms. As we understand it, that allowed them to capture the house that's on West Chestnut so that they had a turning radius. The obstacle in Brockton was twofold. They couldn't poke through to West Bridgewater because Brockton restricted them to a 780-foot 3 road, and they had turning radius issues in order to make the road appropriate to go through, you know, if they would have allowed them to go through, which Brockton said, you can't go through because you have to end that road in a 783-foot circle. So the paperwork was changed, and then in October of 2021, which you just stated, suddenly they retracted the 3 lots and decided, now we're not gonna build, we're just gonna build a road. So this keeps changing. I was not involved in this in 2010, but since about 2016, I mean, you know, we're jumping between towns. It's not that anybody cares about them building. We care about the impact to our neighborhoods, our environment, our wetlands, which we own. We cannot tamper with our wetlands. We cannot build on our wetlands. They're adjacent to some of this on the West Bridgewater end. So we're not just saying this to be belligerent or unkind. There are issues, and quite frankly, there are also issues on your side, or there would be a road there. So that's the point.
You brought up a couple of issues, reiterated, and that's why we're trying to get this all done above board.
I understand.
And doing it in open meeting.
But just
There are a lot of issues. We're trying to get it done right. We're not going to make everybody happy, but we're trying to get it done right. And that's
I understand that, but I take offense to that, you know, we just don't want it from the landowners. It's not that we just don't want it, it's that as somebody else stated, we've been there for 21 years and it's drastically different. And it's not just traffic. Everybody talks about traffic. There's many other issues, environment, fumes, noise, emergency vehicles that was stated, police, fire, who's the closest, this. What if there's a fire in the woods next to our house? In the woods, because there's houses even further than that. We can't control that. So it's a whole bunch of issues. It's not just me saying, no, I don't want it because I want to be a pain. We have concerns.
We're trying to get it done right, that's all we can do. Is it anything more? Okay, Mr. Lawton, can you
Just
request an
respond.
extension?
Yeah, if I can, if I could just take a minute of the councilors, city councilors' time. So I lived on 621 West Chestnut Street, down on this section for 15 years, and moved, quite frankly, because the traffic was crazy and I had little kids, and I didn't want to be there. But the fact of the matter is, this street is treacherous, and a lot of streets in the city of Brockton are treacherous. That's not the only one. I mean, I have an office on Belmont Street. One day a guy was walking out of Russell. He got hit by a car going 40 miles an hour. He landed like 2 streets away. It happens everywhere. What I will say is this, is that there was a traffic study done. You would think this is coming from the landowner, but it was negligible. The city of Brockton and the Department of Transportation both did traffic studies that were, I think that Councilor Castro will agree, that were negligible, less than a quarter of 1%. So the traffic studies were easy. And if you take a look at West Chestnut Street, you know how many cars come in and out of Dunkin' Donuts on West Chestnut Street in an hour, all day long? This is 31 house lots.
That's down in industrial
Doesn't make a
area.
difference. It's all,
Yes,
this is
it
all
does.
West Chestnut.
Significantly widened down.
We have,
Here,
but I will say this,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
before we break, is that the Meadowwoods had a proposal to the city of Brockton where they were gonna pay for a traffic light at Linwood Street and Walnut Street, which is, a lot of it is slowing the traffic down. Because when I lived here, the UPS trucks would roll at night, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and in the winter time, we had frost heaves and your house would
Okay,
shake. Those tractor
Mr.
trailers
Lott,
go down the street.
we're getting off the subject. Let's come up
Break on that.
with a time. You're going to get us 81L,
I am.
and
Get you some finality.
and we will be meeting again on
Is it right? Is that right?
on the
That's right.
7th.
Do we need a written request?
Yes, you do.
I'll send you a written request.
Okay, so you'll
The
send
next
it
hearing date would be?
the 17th, 2 weeks from today.
I did have 81L for sure to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Email it to you and your secretary. And we could come back, but, and then if I could call and see, after you get 81L,
Yeah,
see
you
if
got my
there's
phone
anything
number.
more that you want.
You got my phone number?
Yeah, I do.
Well,
I have your email, I have your email, so I can choose.
Oh, okay. You shoot me an email and I'll send you
Yeah,
that
I
phone number.
appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Okay.
Thanks.
Everybody, this meeting is being continued 2 weeks from today, which will be the 17th of August. It'll be the same time at 7:30. And it is a public meeting. It's a public hearing, which you're all invited to. And all of our meetings are open. The door is open. Anybody is welcome to come in for any of our meetings. And I thank you all for coming and your patience, and we'll try to get the best we can out of it for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.